So I've got this one back on, and as you can tell, you were not able to hear what you should have been able to hear, which was, of course, the sound of me talking. And it's pretty frustrating because I've gone into the settings, I've gone into control panel. I cannot figure out why, for the life of me, this set and the other set that I have will not record sound. Now, one of the interesting things about this set is they use a 4-segment plug, which may or may not have anything to do with it. On the first pair, I tried a splitter that works with a 4-segment plug, and I plugged it into my back panel where it's got multiple for speakers and microphones and so on and so forth. That didn't help. I plugged it into my combo jack on the front panel, and that didn't help. And the same problem exists with this set. The microphone doesn't work. And then when I run the HiHacker Ultimate Headphone Test, which is pretty good. It's not the best, probably, but it is one of the ones that I've been using. That is for testing my headsets that I get. And sadly, during those tests, I noticed that there was a reduction in volume such that I could not tell how low the headset actually went on the bass test. And I could not properly evaluate the bass driver quality. So this is, to me, making an otherwise physically nice headset a no-go for purchasers. Sure, you can listen to music and other things, but when is it going to be correct in terms of volume, and when is it going to fail? I don't know. I have, like I said, I have the volume set to maximum, and it's just not helping. But if I don't stop talking about the problem with the microphone not working and the volume not being correct on the Ultimate HiHacker tests, then I'm just never going to get this video done. So we're going to move on. It could be the 4-part plug. It could be that the slider slash microphone mute slash call, play, pause thing. It could be something here. I don't know what's wrong. All I know is I've got 2 sets that have basically the exact same problem with minor variances. Like, for example, this one is slightly less stable during the driver quality test, or the balance test, I mean, than is the other one, which was, as far as I could tell, was fine. But then again, the volume is a problem, and that makes it hard to tell whether or not something is going wrong. Sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to do it anymore, but then I thought, well, maybe I had muted something for microphones, and so I looked in control panel and saw settings, and there's nothing. And I already uninstalled the Realtek audio control system because it's just another place I have to look to get things to work correctly. And when you're already looking at 2 places and you have to look at a 3rd place, and sometimes there's even a 4th place that I always forget about exists, well, it's not worth it. It's not worth having that extra program that doesn't really deliver enough value to make it worthwhile. All right, so let's look, since we know that in terms of fidelity, this set doesn't work very well. Sometimes in terms of the microphone, it doesn't work at all, which is really sad because this is a very nice boom set, or a boom. It's not perfect. It does have some limitations to how much you can bend it, especially down here at the base. But like up there, it does really well. Unfortunately, when you need it to bend there at the base, and you reach that limit, and you can't quite get it, but it gets next to your mouth. So in order to put one of these on, you're going to have to take this. You'll want to adjust this and stretch it out as much as you need to so that it fits, depending on the size of your ear. Slide it over the top, and then you can make sure it's behind the ear shell, and then you can push it back forward so that it isn't likely to become dislodged. And you can do the same thing with this one. And they're just going to be over the ear holes, which I prefer personally because that means you're not putting dirty foreign objects into your um, ears. I have seen people drop earplugs and earbuds onto the floor and then they just pop them back into their ears, ignoring the fact that they're probably putting fungus and germs into their ears by doing so. It's just like, ugh, that's disgusting. And I have had severe fungal infections in my ears many years ago, and it was just super, super annoying. And because my immune system at that time was compromised. It's a long story, but it was compromised at that time. It took over a year to get rid of the fungal infections in my ears. It was just super, super annoying. So I much prefer not having earbuds. I much prefer having earphones like this, or the big ones that go over your ear, or sometimes not so much the ones that sit on your ears unless they don't press down, because then it's pushing against the arms of my glasses over here, and that hurts. But this is what it looks like on my head. And again, you do have a volume control that you can have some control over. It doesn't do the full range though. And I think that's part of the problem. Is I think that this is damaged, or they designed it incorrectly, because what I've noticed is when I put it down at minimum, I can still hear something. When I've got it at maximum volume, it isn't maximum. And then this button here is for turning the microphone on and off, and it's made no difference. I'm not even sure which direction is on. So I'm assuming that red is on, but yeah. And then this one is for receiving and hanging up calls, as well as play pause when you're not in a call. And it's got a decently long cable, which is really nice. And thank you to Sin Lee at Middle Rabbit, because that's the name of the company, and she was very kind to me, and we had a nice conversation through chat. And hopefully they can get this problem figured out, because I'm at wit's end. But this is the box, by the way. Now, in theory, you could take a splitter and you could put it on this plug, and then you might be able to get it to work right. But I do have a 4-part splitter that I tried with my back panel, and it didn't make any difference whatsoever, unfortunately. So that's as far as fidelity. Now, as far as the actual spatial, oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish actually. So with the sound testing that I do for the first test, the bass test, the range at 60% volume, it only goes from 45 to 200 hertz. And this is a device with a 2-year warranty. So they're fairly confident, unlike most of the other vendors and manufacturers out there. And then for the treble test, this product goes from 8,000 to 14,900. And then after that, at about 15,500, you can once again hear the tones, but the tones are very faint, all the way up to 20,000. But that's better than some of the other headsets where it just stops at 14,900. So, it's not the worst for treble. It's just not the greatest for bass at all. I mean, and because of that, I can't recommend it until they figure this problem out. And then for the driver bass quality at full volume, because at full volume, the volume is so low that I can't even hear part of the range. Again, that means that the test technically does pass, because we're looking for distortion and buzz and things like that. It does pass. But then again, if there was something that happened outside of the range of this headset, I can't tell. Then on the driver balance test at 60% volume, the first set passed that test. The second set had a slight shift in the low mid range. And then for the directional sounds, on the first set, It passed all 3 of the tests, and on the second set, it passed the Dolby and THX tests, but it did not pass the easiest one to pass, which is the Lion Studios high definition 3D sound test, which is odd because I think I've only had one other headset, no, 2 other headsets that have failed that one. And one of the 2 that failed it did so because the left and right speakers are reversed. So for this one to pass Dolby and THX is rather interesting. It is, as long as you adjust it to fit your ear the best way so it's not pressing too much, it's going to hang on to your ear when you're doing exercises very, very nicely. And it's also, unfortunately, got no IP rating. So that kind of is, unfortunate, but what can I do about it? Nothing. As far as the rest, it's fine. I'm going to say that if they can fix this problem, I think this would be a very nice set to choose. But until that happens, I can't make any recommendations for the middle rabbit. I'm sorry, Sinley. And if you get it corrected, send me another set so I can make sure that it's good, and then I'll put out a new video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day. There, can you hear me now? I figured you could. So here's the thing. I'm wearing the Middle Rabbit S6 open earbuds, and they're nice. I even have an extra pair, and I'll explain why I have 2 pairs of these. It isn't because they're fantastic. It's because their customer service people tried to send me another one to replace the ones that you couldn't hear. But sadly, you can't hear the other ones, and both pairs have identical problems with the microphones not working and the sound volume on some videos being very poor. And it does have a volume slider here, but I've got it on maximum and you still couldn't hear anything. And it's also got a mute button, and I've tried it with the mute button off and on. Let me just try it one more time here, but I'm going to change it to the
I need to ask for your help. Things have been challenging. Whose life hasn't been challenging lately? So if you can please help me out by liking, subscribing, sharing, commenting, and turning on notifications, that would be really, really super. Also, if you'd like to help me financially and you can't afford to, you can do a super thanks on my Glenn's Fast Reviews channel, or you can become a member there. Or if you prefer, you can go to patreon.com/GLENNMII and become a member there instead. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to Bleeping Computer for their support of my channel. If you need resources for computers, for getting rid of malware and learning about cybersecurity and stuff, Bleeping Computer, BLEEPING computer.com is a great resource. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.